Welcome to Still Plays Galaxy of Heroes. This is the new account week by week. We are now on week 40. Topics this week are the progress we've made since the last video, which was like week 30 something. Any lessons learned, the depth that we're working with in Grand Arena, that was one of our initial goals, what we're currently farming, and then our long-term planning on this account. So the lessons are a regular occurrence within this series, and I'm going to synthesize these at some point. But before we get started on what we've learned over this recent period, I want to make a reminder about how we approach this account, because this account started with the 5th anniversary rewards. It was during Thanksgiving. It was the shard economy changes. This shard is flooded with whales and krakens, and competing within the squad arena within this shard was not an effective way of building this account free to play. If you're in a weaker shard, then you should absolutely be building towards your arenas and getting as many crystals as you can. That was not something that we could do here, but in spite of that, we have still made a ton of progress and are crushing our opponents in Grand Arena, helping out our guild, and doing everything else that we need to because of how focused we've been on creating a cascading effect of the resources that we're getting. We're trying to beat events. So what we have been seeing in Grand Arena in particular is the benefits of not throwing on resources that we don't have too early. So we haven't been leveling characters up to level 85. I haven't been promoting characters to 7 stars. I haven't been putting on ability mats or taking characters up to high gear because there's no benefit to doing that unless we have a whole squad. And on top of that, there's no benefit in building up a weak squad when we can use the limited resources that we have to build a strong squad. So we're trying to rush characters with quality kits over just rushing up anybody that we can or rushing up weaker teams. So those quality kits on characters like Chupio or a lot of the latest Imperial Troopers, those beat those average characters in taking them to high gear. So that has been really important to rapidly developing our accounts. Why we went after CLS right away. We started farming Chupio immediately. We didn't wait for the accelerated farm on Chupio, and really taking advantage of how effective that CLS team was. And we've been able to benefit from that for months, because what we're looking at doing, what we're understanding, one of the philosophies that we've had on this channel is that every team expires, and we're trying to get to those next higher teams faster, which has also helped us build out a very deep and wide roster. And the quality of those characters that we have has been able to beat out our opponents who typically have higher gear or more Zetas or more ability mats, because we're going up against those characters with better characters. And so we've been looking at how to optimize all those resources, waiting on those promotions, waiting on gear, waiting on the levels, and waiting on the Zetas until an appropriate time where we can make significant progress at once instead of taking up one character at a time. So I've been hoarding resources. When it comes to the optimization of gears, levels, shards, and mats, there's a symbiosis that needs to be achieved in order to optimize your roster. Because you can't level up your character to level 85. It does you no good if you don't have the ability mats to have high level abilities. The same thing for shards or gear. If you promote your character to 7 stars, but you're still dealing with level 60 because you don't have the credits to go to level 85, then those expensive 7-star promotions aren't worth it. Taking characters to high gear when you're at low shards, in a lot of cases it doesn't work. Or if you don't have those ability mats, it's not worth it. You move your characters up in your roster as you have the resources in totality, and that works from an individual character perspective and also on a squad wide perspective, because if you take a single character up in a squad and leave the rest of the faction behind, it also doesn't work. So that's why, the biggest reason why I have been in no rush. I'm trying to build up all of these factions in multiple ways in step. So the whole faction takes a step together and then takes another step together as we build up these top squads. And one of the things, the biggest example of all this is Zetas. Because I have 4, maybe 5 Zetas now. This past week we just put on Jolie's Zeta. We barely have any Zetas. We've got Vader, Merciless Massacre. We've got Yoda. We'll bring it up right now, actually. The Zetas we have been Vader, Han Solo, Jolie we just put on. Vader's was the first. Han was, I think, the second. May have been the third. And then the other Zetas we've put on is Chirpa, because Chirpa allows you to beat C-3PO events at lower gear. I could have put it on earlier and probably would have unlocked C-3PO a week earlier. And then the other one is, if I can find him, is Karth. Same deal. Karth Zeta allows the beating of the Darth Revan event at lower gear and with less of a headache. Now there's other philosophies and routes towards a lot of these unlocks, like going for a relic on a single character and just overpowering it. The idea here with this account is we're trying to beat these events as quickly as possible. Taking a character like Bastila up to relics and blowing through that Darth Revan event is a slower route because it's detracting gear from her elsewhere. And we technically could have got Darth Revan a couple weeks earlier. Things could have been done in different order, but it's not just how quickly we got Darth Revan, it's how quickly we got everything. And here's what that progress looks like. Yes, we could have gotten Darth Revan or Jedi Knight Revan or any of these individual characters faster, but what we're looking at doing is getting the totality of these characters quickly. And if you go and rush the Revans, you are not going to also happen to have a lot of the other characters with CLS or Padme, Chewie, or C-3POs quickly, because those Revan farms, they take so long that if you have the opportunity to get a bunch of other high quality teams, and I would rather have, for instance, like CLS before either of the Revan farms, because of what that CLS team can beat and how easily you can get it. So we've got in magenta the weeks that we got the 5-star unlocks, 6-star promotions in blue, and either the 7-star promotions or the 7-star unlocks in white. With the latest changes to the journey guide, you no longer have to wait till level 85, so characters like BB-8 didn't need to wait till week 16. You can get BB-8 very early. And technically, Padme, CLS, and even JTR are unlockable earlier, but you're still limited by resources with those characters, and you're limited by the level at which certain characters are farmable or at the level at which you can place on certain omegas. So you're still limited at which point you can unlock those characters. It's just not you're just not restricted by level 85 anymore. So for instance, CLS, you cannot beat CLS until level 78. Even though you farm everything way before then, you promote all the characters up way before then, you need level 78 minimum in order to place the Omegas on Princess Leia and Han. I think you can watch my video. Nobody unlocked CLS earlier than I did with the YouTube videos. But you're still limited by level 78 in the case of CLS. With Padme, you're limited by, you need the Geobrood Alpha for probably the earliest unlock. So Geobrood Alpha, I think you need level 80, the node, or even later than that, maybe even level 84 or something, to get the node unlocked where you can farm Geobrood Alpha. Then the other characters like Newt or Dooku, those characters aren't going to be beating the Padme event much earlier than that. You might not need high gear, but you still need maxed out abilities in a lot of cases. So a lot of these characters, though technically accessible earlier, you're not going to be beating those events with those changes to the journey guide. So I still think the best route with starting these new accounts is go for troopers, go for Phoenix, go for all those other character unlocks, because what you've shown, if you go back to my week 16 new account video, I was able to farm everything. You're not delaying CLS, you're not delaying Padme by going for troopers or Phoenix when you start out an account, because you are going to have so much time between like level 70 to level 80. We're talking weeks where you can farm everything that you need. Now coming up, we're going to get probably Jedi Training Ray next week. I'm just waiting on one farm, and that's the only thing holding me back there. We'll have to see what kind of ability mats, what kind of gear and everything that we need. That's why she's in yellow. Soon after that, we're gonna have Beskar Mando. That's only being slowed down by Quill and IG-11 being single shard drops. But he's shown here, because what I'm trying to show, that within a single year of farming, this is everything that you can have with a new account these days. And what I'm shooting for in the case of Malik and Gas, and we've said this on my Grand Arena videos, is by this coming Thanksgiving, which will mark the 1 year of this new account, I want to have those epic confrontation characters unlocked. And so you can have a fantastic foundation for the rest of your time playing this game in a single year by focusing on these farms. And the other characters here, Telzing and Wicket, they're so important for the Zetas. You should be rushing those farms as soon as those nodes are available. As soon as I unlocked those nodes, we started the farms on Telzing and Wicket. Telzing, also that event to get Telzing shards, you basically need to qualify for it to beat it. Wicket is harder, and the Wicket event, basically what you need to beat Endor Escalation is the same requirements you're going to need to unlock C-3PO. So that's why they both happened in week 29. That's when Wicket, or it's when I took the gear up or did something. I forget exactly what I did, but that's why that all occurred at that moment. Quickly review the 3v3 and 5v5 Grand Arena teams we're doing. There's two things I want to get here. One was a point I lost track of earlier in the video. It's about why I don't have so many Zetas on this account, and it's about maximizing those purple ability mats, which are a premium at this stage of the game. Because what I care more about is getting good teams usable as quickly as possible. And with the amount of purple ability mats that every Zeta takes, that limits how many of these other teams that I can be building. Because the goal here, and what you've seen in my Grand Arenas, is how quickly I've been moving on from one team to the next. Because like what we talk about here is every team expires. We're trying to move on from teams as quickly as possible instead of investing too much into these weaker teams. We can always come back, but delaying the development of the roster by just working on the stuff that we've already started is going to slow us down. So here's what we're talking about with that. Geos here. The thing that we talk about is your opponent either has a team that can beat Geos or they don't. The Zeta is not really necessary. The maxed out abilities aren't really necessary, because like either they have Vader and Merciless Massacre and they can handle Geos, at which point in order to stop Vader you're going to have much higher gear Geos, or it doesn't matter and they're gonna have a high geared Vader and they're gonna wipe you out. Or if they don't have Vader and Merciless Massacre, then they probably are not going to beat you unless they have like Jedi Knight Revan or a Revan, and then it doesn't matter anyway. So they can either beat you or they don't. Now looking at Bastila, like no Zeta here. but it's because you get Jedi Knight Revan so quickly that putting a Zeta on her leadership is not really worth it. And she's actually a character that I don't want to be using on defense, but in 3v3 with the amount of teams that you have, there's some utility having her there. And a pair with attackers, I prefer to go about that way. We've got Padme. This is one of those purple ability mat intensive teams. Like Kenobi needs a bunch of resources. Padme has a ton of abilities. Bringing up that team, I've been slow about it, but I would have been even slower had I been working on other characters, or if I would have put more resources into her after I got her unlocked to have a Padme team running quickly. That means I probably wouldn't have the Revans right now. Maybe it means I don't have CLS to where I have him right now. By putting those resources into a team that I think might be a little too early, because one thing with Padme, she's decent without the Zetas. She's not great. She really becomes unlocked with those Zetas. So rushing it is a big diversion of resources. Night Sisters, these are teams I'm working towards. Right now I'm using a single Night Sister team, but they're the type of thing just with a Gear 10 zombie, you make them work. 3v3, you can split them into two separate teams, and that's a long-term goal. I don't really need it at the division I'm at right now. Newt is a team that is a big nuisance for a lot of players unless you have higher quality teams. So he's well worth the investment until your opponents have a deeper roster. Because one of these things where I'm putting on defense a lot of high quality teams, your opponents, if they have been over-investing in weaker squads, they don't have enough high quality squads to counter. Kylo's one of those. I'm not even using this team. This is one of those teams that gets over-invested in too early. Ewoks, they're a team that they're going to expire quickly, but in the early going, they get a ton of viability. So offense, like here's the teams that we're looking for. Palpatine, we got CLS, we have a solid bounty hunter team. We actually have two bounty hunter teams. Both of these are solid and usable. And like what you're seeing, we'll talk about it more in a second, but what you're seeing here is I haven't promoted everybody to 7 stars because it's 1,000,000 credits every time. I haven't taken everybody up to level 85 because we're talking it's like 300k per level, so 1.5 million to take a character up from level 80 to level 85. Unless I want a certain Omega or a Zeta, I'm not doing it right now. Troopers have been hugely helpful, but you can see how weak my troopers are right now. Partly it was because Moff Gideon wasn't in the game at that point, so I was working on different troopers, but also because I'm just shifting to other teams quickly, and I want to return to troopers right now. And they're one of those teams where now I want to put a purple ability mats on these characters. If I'm working on other Zetas, that means I'm not working on Imperial troopers, and I want this team up and running. Phoenix we're not using anymore. And one team that's not shown here is Sith Empire, because Darth Revan is being worked on right now. And then 5v5 real quickly, same kind of deal. Geos, Ewoks, Jedi Knight Revan, Padme, Night Sisters. Night Sisters are a team too. This team is already working at these levels, and really it's about zombie at Gear 10 to get that infinite revive, and DACA for some survivability, but the rest of them are weak. Newt and Grievous, these separatists, they're an upcoming project because now that we're shifting to epic confrontation characters, we're working towards Malik and Gas. We want them both by the end of the year. And then here's what the first order look like. Grievous and offense here. We got Palpatine, CLS, we got our Jango, we got troopers. Clones are a team that we have. Shaak Ti now. We'll talk about some of the farms in a moment. But Shaak Ti and the clones, Bad Batch are here because I'm not going to farm them right now. I'm not going to take them beyond Gear 8. But it's the type of thing where the quality of the kit is going to trump a lot of other characters, and that's what I'm looking for. We're working towards Beskar Mando, and Smugglers are a decent team early on. Parth we were working on for Darth Revan. And then we are currently working on Rey, which you can see from the status of the farms. We might be able to unlock as soon as next week the 7-star BB-8. I need to take a look at the First Order again, because that's actually something I forgot about. And then Mon Mothma here is Darth Revan. Actually, Sith Assassin I just haven't unlocked, but I've been farming from the guild store. The guild store is another thing we've been talking about on this channel, where that is a place you can exploit early on in the game. The gear is surprisingly less important than doing a lot of these farms. And when you have those resources coming in, it's best to get these farms done out of the way before these gear demands get more intense. They're not so intense at this point. And we've done a ton of farms through the guild store. JTR, as an example, like both Rey and Finn were guild store farms, which freed up the cantina nodes for the veterans. So we didn't need to split up a bunch of farms. We could focus, and we started those after we were done with the Revan farms. In terms of what we are farming right now that Piet is double drops, we are focusing on him, getting him up to 6 stars, maybe 7 stars. Newt is there just so I stop forgetting about throwing ability mats at him. We're working towards being done with B1 pretty soon and Shakti pretty soon on fleets. Maybe by next week we're going to be done with Shakti, and then we have started Nest. We were focused on other farms before Nest, but now is a time where we want to have Nest in our farms. And with our light side, dark side energy, we are doing IG-11, Quill, Hux, Piet we've already mentioned, Sith Trooper, and Mon Mothma. I'm probably going to stop some of those farms at 5 stars and look at some other characters from there, but that is what we're currently doing. And then Moff Gideon, even though that's a single shard drop, that's one that we want. And we might focus a little bit more on Gideon after I'm done with Vet Chewie, because we're done here with Vet Han. And then the other place for our energy with ships, Houndstooth is being farmed, Vulture Droid, and what we have started doing is Rey and Kylo's command shuttle, because I don't want to be wasting time, and that's one of the things that we're trying to do here, is make sure that we're beating every event. And now I'm at a point where I want to qualify for both the Finalizer and Radis to make sure that we are able to just collect those shards. We don't need to build out those fleets anytime soon, but we can't make up that time. So now that we're done with a lot of the critical farms towards all the teams that we want, we are getting these ships so that we can qualify. They're the last 2 ships I need to qualify for those nodes. Actually, I think I need the Ebon Hawk for the Radis. But at least with at least one of those 2 ships, we are only in need of 1 more to qualify to start farming for them. That is where we are by week 40. 2 weeks ago at week 38, we hit Darth Revan for the next 12 weeks, which will get us to the 1-year standpoint, 3 more months till the end of the first year of this account. We are shooting for 2 epic confrontation characters in Malak and Gas. So we'll be doing periodic updates as we work towards that goal, and as we work towards getting the other 7-star legendary characters, because we've been working towards 5-star and 6 stars on those characters, or we had previously, but we will continue to work towards 7 stars as we also work towards those epic confrontation characters. Thank you for watching. Be safe out there, everyone, and be excellent to each other. This is Still Plays Galaxy of Heroes.